I've had the honor of covering the White House for a good part of the last 2 decades, 4 presidents and part or all of 6 terms in office. I'll be happy to answer questions about any and all of the presidents that I've covered, each of whom was fascinating in his own way. But I'll concentrate today on the current president and his relationship with the media and the war in Iraq and the war on terror. First, let me say it's always good to get out of Washington, a place that Ronald Reagan used to refer to as the puzzle palace across the Potomac, a place where, as one elected official recently said, when politicians walk along Lover's Lane, they hold their own hands. And Senator Fred Thompson, who left the Senate and is now playing the district attorney on Law and Order, explained his move from the nation's capital by saying that life in Washington had made him long for the sincerity and realism of Hollywood. It was also Thompson who said shortly after becoming a senator that Washington took some getting used to. Why, yesterday, he said at one point, I accidentally spent some of my own money. Washington, as a departing official once said, is the only place in the world where sound travels faster than light, where friends come and go but enemies accumulate, and where, if you want a friend, as Harry Truman said, get a dog. And, of course, when Bill Clinton got into trouble, that is exactly what he did. He went out and got a Labrador named Buddy, because he needed a buddy in those days. Things weren't too warm around the household. Now, before I get into any details of anything, I want you to know that my remarks are completely nonpartisan. And to demonstrate that, I offer you this definition of the difference between a liberal and a conservative. If a conservative comes along and happens upon a man drowning 75 feet offshore, he'll throw him a 50-foot rope on the theory that he should have to do something to help save himself. If a liberal comes along, on the other hand, and finds a man drowning 75 feet offshore, he'll throw him a 150-foot rope, then drop his end to go off and do something else. Now, I recently left the White House after almost 16 years there in 2 different stints, one 7 years, one 9 years. Not long before I left, I saw 2 of the presidents I had covered, President Clinton and Bush 41, because they had come there to begin their effort to help the tsunami victims. And it was really interesting to see the 2 of them together. For one thing, Bush 41 never quite understood how it was that he got beat by Bill Clinton. And he had some, I wouldn't say ill feelings, but had some difficulty figuring it all out for a while. But at this point, the 2 of them had been brought together by Bush 43. They were both working on this effort, and I walked into the room to interview the 2 of them together, and since I had covered both of them, they both went, hey, good to see you, good to see you. And as I'm walking over and crawling over the wires and stuff, President Clinton leans over to President Bush and elbows him and says, now there's a guy who's not covered by term limits. And I was getting ready to leave the White House, but he sounded so envious I didn't have the heart to tell him. The 2 of them went off on their effort to raise money for tsunami victims and have made a lot of appearances together, and it's starting to look like a buddy movie when you see Bush 41 and Clinton together. And Bush 41 is quite a character, and you know about Bill Clinton, so the 2 of them together, it's quite a scene, and it's kind of fun to watch them. The most interesting thing to me in their relationship was the moment at which I saw Bush 41 finally figure out what it was that Bill Clinton had that helped him win that election. We were at the White House for a NAFTA affair, a North American Free Trade Agreement, about free trade, and Clinton had invited all the living presidents to come. And so you had 4 presidents there, and Clinton got up without any notes and for 10 minutes gave a stirring tribute to free trade. It was just amazing, and which is a controversial issue, but he gave a wonderful description of it. And I watched Bush 41 as he was sitting there watching Clinton, and you could see as Clinton talked and talked, you see this look come on Bush's face. And it was clear that he was having some sort of epiphany. he's looking at this guy, and you can tell by looking at him, he's thinking, man, is this guy good? Yeah, and I'm still a little stiff from that tennis match, as a matter of fact. Thank God for Celebrex. I should be speaking to Pharma instead of FEMA. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's nice to be in Florida and not covering a presidential recount. The last time I was here at the Breakers was with President Clinton. We were on a trip with him. We arrived about 1:30 in the morning, in keeping with a long-standing truth on the presidential beat, which is that the nicer the hotel, the shorter the time you're in it. But on this particular trip, that was truer than we could have imagined. Got to bed about 2 a.m. I got a call at 4 a.m. to wake me up to tell me that the president had twisted his knee at Greg Norman's house and had been taken to the hospital. Of course, the White House is we have a pool that's supposed to travel with the president everywhere he goes. Anytime he moves, we're supposed to be in the motorcade. They left us behind, didn't tell us he went to the hospital. We got it from all the local reporters who heard it on the police scanners. So you can imagine what that created. He was staying at Greg Norman's house. Hillary was not there, so we know it was not a domestic dispute. So we got up, I got up, my producer got about an hour's sleep. I got up at 5 a.m., did 5 hours of live shots right out there in that long little lobby area. And then we got on a bus without any sleep and left here not having seen anything but the check-in desk and a brief look at our rooms. And as we rolled out, people looked out the window, and we got about a 3-second glimpse of the water. And people went, ah, ah, ah. So, you know, if it weren't for the glamour of it all, we'd probably be in another business. At least we were able to walk onto the plane, unlike the president, who had the ignominious distinction of being lifted onto Air Force One in a Marriott catering truck. The first of several embarrassing moments for President Clinton. Anyway, it's nice to be back in the daylight and with people of good taste and flavor. It's also nice to get out of Washington, which can be a mysterious and frustrating place from time to time. When Senator Fred Thompson first got elected, he acknowledged that it was a difficult place to get used to. He said, shortly after arriving, he said, why, he said, I've got a lot of adjusting to do here in Washington. Why, yesterday I accidentally spent some of my own money. Washington, as a departing official once said, is the only place where sound travels faster than light, where friends come and go but enemies accumulate, and where, if you want a friend, as Harry Truman said, get a dog. Now, of course, that's exactly what Bill Clinton did when he got into trouble. He got Buddy the Lab. That didn't stop the criticism, of course. After the Lewinsky affair, there was a cartoon, I remember, that showed Bill, Hillary, and Buddy in a vet's office. And Hillary is up at the desk and saying to the receptionist, I want to have him neutered. And the receptionist looks out in the room and says, which one? Anyway, I want to talk to you about the real West Wing today, what really happens in the White House. I'll try to get to a little bit of the last 4 presidents so we can do more than talk about President Bush, but I'm going to leave a lot out, obviously, so if you have any questions at the end, please feel free to ask them. The White House is a fascinating place to cover, and to watch each president as he comes into office and as his notions of what he wants to do with the country, as his idealism meets reality. And that is when you see what a presidency is all about and what the White House staff is all about, because it's tough. It's like a quarterback at the line calling audibles. Nothing ever goes the way you plan. And presidents realize once they get in how difficult it is to manage the job and to manage the government and to turn it in the direction you want it to go. Bill Clinton once said that being president is a lot like running a cemetery. You got a lot of people under you, but nobody seems to be listening.